Hello, my favorite bookish people. We are back again with another reading wrap up. This time we are talking about all of the books that I read in November. Let's start off with some stats. I read 6 books in November and I DNF'd 1. My average rating was a 3.8 stars. I read 4 fantasy, 1 fiction, 1 romance, and my DNF was a nonfiction book. Overall, as far as reading, I had an okay month. I do feel like I had some really good ones, but I felt a little bit slumpy, not gonna lie, and I think that's because of everything going on in my personal life. So I'm just really hoping for December I have a really good reading month and I just leave 2025 on the best reading note. Let's jump right into these books. Let's first talk about the book that I DNF'd. Grief, a Comedy by Allison Larkin, which was actually an arc that I got at the beginning of the year. It is nonfiction. We are following Allison through her grief journey with her husband dying, which I thought I could relate to a lot because if you didn't know, my husband, partner, also died in 2022. So any books like that, I always think that I will be able to relate to them and I feel like I will enjoy them. I did not like the writing style of this, guys. I liked the concept too because she was like walking through her life and like through her grief, talking directly to her husband on the other side, which like the concept of that sounded so good and I was so excited for this one. I just couldn't do it, guys. I just did not connect to the writing style the way I tried for months to get into this. Like I would pick it up and put it down, pick it up and put it down. And I tried so hard and I just couldn't do it. And so this month I picked it up again, read 2 pages and I was like, Emma, we just gotta DNF this. And it hurts to DNF an arc. Like I think that's why it took me so long to DNF it. If it was just like some random book that I picked up, I would have already DNF'd it. But I wanted to make it through it so that I could do a good review for NetGalley and everything. But I just couldn't do it. I don't have the time for books that I'm not interested in. So that's why I DNF'd this one. The first book that I finished in November was The Winners by Frederick Bachman. I've kind of been putting this one off for a long time and I finally got to it. This is the 3rd book in the Beartown trilogy. It's the final book. Obviously, it's the 3rd book. I'm not going to tell you details about the 3rd book, but if you're interested in reading Beartown, it is a fiction book and it's following a small town in Sweden. It's so small and out in the middle of nowhere that these people don't have a lot to do and don't have a lot to really even look forward to. So they're all very obsessed with their hockey teams. They all live and breathe hockey. Not only do they love it, but it actually helps boost their economy too. It's really good for their town. Frederick Bachman masterfully goes in and out of so many people's lives in this town. You see so many POVs and you don't start each chapter with a new POV. It's just kind of interwoven. You just see everyone's lives playing out. Big trigger warning on this series. Definitely check triggers if that's something that you like to do. It is a very sad series, but at the same time, very heartwarming. I ended up giving this a 5 stars. I knew I would. This is officially my favorite of the series. I love these characters so much. They feel like home and they feel like family to me because of the way that Frederick Bachman is just so good at describing people's lives and the human condition. By the end of this series, it just feels like you know these people so well. This is definitely one that I will be rereading in the future. I'm sure all of you are so sick of me saying it, but Frederick Bachman's writing is like no other. The way that he writes and understands the human condition is incredible. Something I always say about this series is that I am not a sports girly. I don't care about hockey. I don't care about any sports whatsoever. Somehow I care deeply about hockey in this series. Next up, I read Eclipse by Stephanie Meyer. This book and the winners and the next book I'm going to be talking about were all a part of a continuing series vlog that I did on my channel if you're interested in vlogs. The Twilight Saga for me is a reread. I did read these as a teenager. I was obsessed with these as a teenager. If you somehow don't know what the Twilight Saga is, I guess like contemporary fantasy. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like we're in the real world, but there's vampires and werewolves. We're following our main character, Bella, who is a teenager. She moves to Washington to live with her dad, and upon starting school, she meets a guy who ends up being a vampire, and they end up falling in love, and there's so much teenage drama, yada, yada, yada. I think Eclipse might be my second least favorite of the series. Honestly, Twilight, I did not like that book. It's so... The writing is so...
It's just clearly meant for teenagers.
I think what I disliked most about this was just all of the teenagers are so whiny. The boys are extremely manipulative. I just was cringing the whole entire time. I'm like, Bella, how could you even like these boys in the first place? But I will say a 3.25 isn't a horrible rating, and I did enjoy myself. As much as I was cringing and thinking about how honestly not good these books are, I was living for it. And I keep telling myself that it's just the nostalgia that was just pushing me through. If I had tried this series as an adult without my previous knowledge of it, I would have DNF'd this series immediately after Twilight. I actually would have DNF'd Twilight, so I wouldn't have even made it through the first book. That's how much the writing and the plot and storyline is just not it. But I think I was just like, I don't know, living in the nostalgia. I don't know. All I can say is it was just a guilty pleasure. The next book that I read and the final book in that continuing series vlog was Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is the 5th and final book in the Chestnut Springs series. It is romance. If you don't know what the Chestnut Springs series is, it's a bunch of interconnected cowboy romances. They're really fun. They're very fast-paced and easy to read. Great palate cleanser books. In this one, we are following Bo and Bailey. Bo is a retired veteran, and Bailey comes from a family in the town that is not perceived well by the rest of the town because her brothers are kind of like big bullies and just not great people in general. We don't get a lot of backstory as to why people in the town don't really like this family, but you can tell by her brothers that they're just not really great people. And so everyone perceives Bailey in the same way. And so she's kind of going through that. And then you have Bo coming back from the military where he actually went missing for like a week or 2 weeks or something like that. That whole thing, he has PTSD. So it's just like the two of them coming together, dealing with their traumas together, and cute little romance blossoms. Is an age gap romance. That is one thing that I didn't like about it. I think Bo and Bailey were really cute together and complimented each other well. But yeah, that age gap, that was the one thing that I was like, yeah, it had me like cringing every once in a while because Bailey was described so often as young and whatever. It's a 13-year age gap, and Bo is 35 and Bailey is 22. And 22 is just so young to me. When I think about myself at 22, I just cringe. I am not who I used to be at 22. I did not have a fully developed frontal lobe. It would have been better if she was 25, 26 preferably, and Bo was like closer to 40. I don't care about the 13-year age gap. I just care about how Bailey was so young. So basically, I was ignoring the fact that she was 22 the whole time. I just kept telling myself that she was like 26 instead. But yeah, I really did enjoy this one. If I had to rank them, I think this would be my third favorite in the series. Next, I read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is like a magical realism, historical fiction. In my stats, I kind of just classified it as fantasy because it's just easier that way. In this, we have, in the beginning, two children who are being raised to compete against each other in this mysterious mysterious competition. The only thing that they learn and that they're brought up to do is to fight against each other in this competition. And then we have the Night Circus, which is basically a circus that shows up in the middle of the night without warning in different places all over the world. It is very magical, very whimsical. There's like an endless amount of tents and things to do and food and like the best, most magical circus you can imagine, but it only is at nighttime. And this is kind of like the stage for our two main characters' competition to take place. That's the best that I can kind of describe it without like spoilers or anything. I ended up giving this a 3.25 stars, you guys. I thought I was going to absolutely love this. I thought this was going to be like a 5-star read for me. And if I'm being honest, I'm genuinely sad that it wasn't for me. This was kind of one of those books. I'm sure if you're an avid reader, you know this feeling. You had such high expectations for it that like you finish it and you almost just want to rate it higher than what you actually feel. And at first you're like, yeah, no, it was 4 stars. But then you really think about it and you're like, did I really enjoy my time? And that's exactly what this book was for me, unfortunately. Some things that I liked. I liked her writing style. I loved the setting. I loved the magical and whimsical circus. I enjoyed our characters for the most part, especially one specific character. If you've read it, I really loved Bailey. I just felt like I could really relate to Bailey. I do think that our main couple, our rivals, were not as fleshed out as I would have liked them to be, and their love story did not feel, I didn't feel really anything for their love story. It just felt kind of surface level. There wasn't any reason behind them feeling so much love towards each other. There was no like yearning really or like build up. Maybe a little bit of yearning. I don't know. I didn't feel it between them. And not to mention that the whole entire premise of this book, even the back of this book, says that the premise is the competition. And so going into this, I thought that it was going to be the setting that it was, like magical and whimsical, but I thought there was going to be like kind of like a high stakes competition happening because that's what it literally says on the back of the book. The competition was such a flimsy, I don't even know how to say what I'm trying to say. Like it was barely there. It was barely a competition. There was no real rules or even structure to the competition. In the beginning, it kind of had like this mysterious air to it, and I really loved that. And I thought that halfway or even 75% of the way through, we were going to get some kind of like solid reveal or something to like the mystery, the mysteriousness of it, but it just didn't happen. And like maybe that was the point. Like maybe it was just supposed to be like mysterious through the whole entire thing, and you don't actually really end up getting any answers to anything by the end. And that's just kind of like what the Night Circus is. It's a mystery, and even the reader doesn't know what's good. But sometimes I like that. Sometimes I really like that in a book, but I think it has to be done right. And I don't know. Can you tell I'm just disappointed that I didn't like this? I thought this was going to be everything to me, and it was just not one that I'll even think about in the future. It was so slow and bland, sadly. Besides the setting, the way that she set up the circus and everything was great. The only time I felt anything though was when we were in Bailey's perspective. Also that whole thing at the end with Bailey, I'm like, what? I'm so confused. Just genuinely I don't know. Moving on, the next book that I read was Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. This is actually a quick like fantasy horror novella. This is actually one that I did consider reading back in October when I did my reading horror novellas vlog. In this, I believe we are in the 1920s. So this is kind of like historical fantasy. I think we're in the South somewhere. I can't remember exactly what state or like where exactly we are, but essentially we're following these 3 black girls who fight KKK members. Obsessed, right? Obsessed. So we have like the KKK, but there is an entity that is kind of like taking over the minds of the KKK, but like some of the people in the KKK are demons essentially, and they're called Ku Kluxes. And so these girls are basically fighting off Ku Kluxes, and they're trying to take it down. They're trying to take take it down. I think this starts out like very fantastical, and then slowly it kind of creeps more into like horror elements. Things start to get kind of yucky and like wild, I guess. The opening scene to this book is one of the best opening scenes I have ever read, I think, honestly. It hooked me right from the start. I ended up giving it a 4 stars, and I'm wondering if I should bump it up to a 4.25 stars, actually. I'm gonna think on it, but my final rating will be up here. I loved this. So good. So fast paced. Such a quick read. Yes, because it was only like 200 something pages, but also because the content, like the plot, was just so fast paced. I loved the culture that we got in this. I also just loved that the author took like a real historical thing and just plopped that right into a fantasy world. This book has feeling too. I think that's one thing that I loved about it so much too, is like there's so much feeling behind everything. I absolutely loved our badass main characters. It was just genuinely so good. Highly recommend you guys pick this one up. It's such a short, fast-paced read. And the last book that I read in November was Breaking Dawn by Stephanie Meyer. This is the 4th book in the Twilight saga. I know she just came out with a 5th book in 2020 that is basically like Edward's perspective of the first book. I don't think I'm going to be picking up Midnight Sun, which is the 5th book. I just kind of wanted to read the original books. I enjoyed this one again, I think just because of pure nostalgia, and I don't know. It just guilty pleasure. The storyline and plot was not the best or most well thought out. This whole time reading this, I was literally thinking about how she could have taken this. So like it could have been so much better than it was. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed myself. Am I ever going to reread these again? I don't know. I don't think so. Do I want them for my shelf? At first, I said no, but now I do kind of. And my brother and I are now binging all of the movies. We've already watched Twilight and New Moon, so up next is Eclipse, one of my least favorite ones, so we'll see how the movie does. I have seen the movies before, but a long time ago, so that's been very fun to watch as well. Also, the difference between, as far as the movies go, the budget, it seemed like, for Twilight was just so low. Like Twilight, the first movie, was just so bad. It was so bad, just like the book. But New Moon really stepped it up. They really did step it up. I would love to know how you guys feel about the Twilight saga. Have you read it? My thoughts on it confuse me so much because they're really not good, but I enjoyed myself. I would love to know what you guys read in November. What was your favorite book of the month? Please drop it down below. Have you guys read any of the books that I read? Thoughts and feelings on them? I'm wishing you guys an amazing reading month for December. Let's all leave off on an amazing reading note. But until next week, guys. Bye.